Welcome to Third Chances, a talk show where we like to hear from people who devoted their life to health, fitness and wellness. Medical professionals, health coaches and all the others who help us every day to cure our body, mind or soul. Those who always look for more natural, holistic ways to help even more people to live a happier and healthier life. Those who don't like to give up easily and settle on you or themselves. It is never too late or too soon. I always believe that every one of us deserves not just a second chance, but as many as we need. I'm Vera, your host. Who better than a master of reinvention with an accent to guide you through it, right? Just like they say, you are not a tree, so move. And God knows I have done just that in my own life many times. If you are not completely happy with the direction your life is going, this show may help you get the courage to change what is needed, find a new path and take charge. So come on over, pour yourself a glass of wine and spend some time with us. Let's laugh and cry together and get inspired by people just like you and me who overcame their own doubts and took a leap of faith to reinvent their life on their own terms. I hope and pray that we help you on that journey. And if you feel so compelled and inspired, please let us know. Don't be shy. Who knows? You may just be our next featured guest with another inspiring success story. So here we go. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Third Chances, where we speak with professionals that devoted their life to healing, health coaching, and today's guest is a very special one. We met through LinkedIn. Sarah was a registered nurse for 20 years, but is now a holistic health coach, keynote speaker, author, and multi-award winning entrepreneur, which is most I didn't know about. After naturally self-healing and multitude of health issues, Sarah understood that it is like what it is like to be sick. So she uses her knowledge gained through her own personal healing journey and experience as a nurse to take a holistic approach in her work. Sarah, it is so exciting to have you on my podcast. Where are you calling from?
Thank you, Vera. I'm calling from Spain.
I think that's the whole point of the social media, that we meet people from all over the world that are on the same journey as we are, and they are on the same page, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't the internet? It's an amazing thing that it's brought us all together around the world.
It is. And if I remember correctly, we were chatting briefly before, and we actually realized, because Sarah asked me where I'm from in Florida, and of course, I'm Czech originally, and I lived in America for 20 years, last 10 years in Florida. And as it so happened, she was in America briefly as well. And she ended up in the same town that I live right now, which is really funny coincidence. You were in Delray Beach and you were a nurse, as I understood, here in the Delray Beach Hospital, right? For a while?
Absolutely, yes, 2 years.
Wow. So world traveler, like we all are.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, it is interesting every time I speak to doctors or nurses who had a classical training, and obviously the medicine, the way it approaches the healing, so-called healing, is a little different than what holistic approach is. Could you tell me what the major difference is and why it turns the way it turns out, that you actually use your traditional education and experience from nursing, but turn into holistic approach, which is quite different?
Absolutely. So doctors and nurses are trained in specific parts of the human body because the body's been so separated out, and doctors have specialized in those different entities or parts of the body.
Correct.
Which has taken them away from looking at the body as a whole. And you have to also factor in that medic training is funded by pharmaceutical companies and equipment companies. So
what can go wrong, right?
Exactly, right? And doctors are trained to look at all the symptoms, pull them together and give a diagnosis, and then find a medication that works with that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And the medication is more about alleviating symptoms or reducing symptoms, or in some cases removing symptoms.
Yeah.
It's not really about healing. It's just about removal or ameliorating those symptoms. Whereas holistic health looks at the body as a whole, and takes on board what we put into our body, what we put onto our body, and our mind as well, our thought processes and our beliefs. So it's the whole holistic, not just looking at what, because I was a cardiac nurse previously, so what's good for my heart,
Right.
but what's good for my heart, it needs to be what's good for me as a whole. So as I say, holistic is looking at the whole person together, whereas doctors tend to look at and isolate specific parts of the body and systems.
That was interesting to me when I first realized that, you know, every specialist is only concerned about that special part of the body, and everything is interconnected, everything. So it's really about, you may be hurting in your shoulder, but the core of the issue is somewhere else, and you don't address that, and they go and operate on the shoulder, which is often not necessary. Absolutely right. But you have mentioned in your bio that you went through array of health issues yourself, so I'm guessing that was the path of starting discovering that maybe the traditional approach is not the best.
Yes. And do you want me to cover what I went through?
Would you mind?
No, I mean, it's quite a list, really. The first thing that I naturally self-healed was psoriasis. When I was in my early 20s, I had 2 big red ugly patches on my legs, red, scaly, white skin. And I was using the steroid cream that the doctor had prescribed for me. And I'd been told that over a number of years, it would thin my skin. And after years of using it, I decided one summer, because I was living down on the south coast in England, and I decided one summer I'd had enough. I was going to stop using it and wear shorts and just do lots of walking in the sunshine and the sea air. And by the end of that summer, I'd healed that psoriasis. No cream, no scarring, no, my skin was perfectly normal. And that was my first real insight into natural self-healing.
Did you know what you were doing, or was it coincidence?
No, not really. It was guesswork. I was just fed up with using the cream, and I thought, I wonder what will happen if I don't use the cream, but I get this out to the sun, the wind, and do the walking, which obviously helps with de-stressing as well.
Isn't it amazing?
No, it was pure guesswork at that point.
Wow.
It wasn't till later in my life, when I developed eczema and acid reflux, that I started looking at what I could do to, rather than taking the pharmaceuticals that I had in the past, what could I do differently? And that's when I realized that those two are stress related disease processes. So by reducing stress will absolutely help. But also the fact that dairy and gluten both cause inflammation. They're known to cause inflammation. And inflammation is the root of all health problems and diseases outside of accidents and trauma. So I cut out dairy, and I love cheese and milk and yogurt and cream. So I stopped taking all of those that came from animals. And I cut out gluten. I went to gluten-free bread and gluten-free pasta. And did some more de-stressing and did some more walking, because I like being outdoors. And that healed the acid reflux and the eczema together. And as Charlotte Gerson of the Gerson Institute, who deals with healing cancer, says, you can't heal 2 diseases and keep one. When you're healing, your body's just healing. So
that's right. Yeah.
If we can support our body in healing, we can heal anything.
That's the whole principle of holistic approach, because you are not looking at one problem at the time.
Absolutely. And doctors tend to focus in on that one problem or one system. So by looking at it as a whole, and that's how I healed that. I then went on to develop pains. I had a frozen shoulder one year, the other frozen shoulder the other year. I had hip, knee and back pain. And I went to a chiropractor with the joint pains and had chiropractic manipulation and acupuncture and heat treatment, and healed all of those without taking any painkillers, no pharmaceuticals, just allowed the chiropractor to do his magic to support my body on its own healing process. And that healed all of those pains.
How did it feel to you while you were still nurse and your job was to administer all that medication that you know the side effects, you know the toxins, you know all the effects it has on different parts of the body, yet you already now understand how much body is powerful on its own and how much we could have taken care of ourselves and prevent all these things. Gotta be quite a disbalance in.
Oh, massive. Yeah, because then I'm starting to think, well, you know, I'm at work and I'm giving out all these pharmaceuticals because that's what I'm being told to, that's what the patients have prescriptions for. But outside of that, I'm now not taking pharmaceuticals. I'm looking at alternative ways to support my body. So there was a real disparity there. You know, I had to take my home hat off when I went to work and my work hat off when I went home, to separate those two lives, because they were like two separate lives. After that, something happened and I spiraled downwards into a deep, dark depression that lasted quite a while. And whilst I was in that depression, I ended up with suicidal thoughts. So I went back to my doctor. I knew I was depressed. I didn't need but I didn't know what to do, you know, because the world was so dark. And obviously he diagnosed depression and wanted to put me on antidepressants. Now, I'd done them after the birth of my son, and they left me feeling like devoid of emotion, not just negative emotion, but positive as well. So I said to my doctor, I don't want to take those. I don't know how, but I know I'm going to heal this myself, but I have no idea what I'm going to do. And at the same time, I've got a really good friend of mine started taking me to a gym class once a week, and it was 2 single-hour classes put back to back. So every Wednesday evening we would go to do these 2 hours at the gym. And on top of that, because we had dogs, I was out walking every day. So after a while, and I have no idea how long because I was just in this autopilot mode, one day out walking with the dogs, I suddenly realized, like, there's leaves on the trees and there's flowers on the ground, and it's like, and I don't feel so dark anymore. You know, my world's starting to lift a bit and lighten. And looking back now, I realized I was actually practicing mindfulness. I was becoming in that present moment. But at the time, I had no idea what it was. I just suddenly remember waking up outside one day.
And the exercise on its own releases all the dopamines and endorphins, everything. That's amazing. That's amazing. I wish more people can really, you know, because I feel really bad how our first, obviously, if something goes wrong with us, the first thought is, let's see the doctor. And I myself came from communist country where you had no choice in doctor. You have to go where you belong to. So it limits your choices and decision making. And so you kind of grew up in feeling that the doctor is a god and what doctor says goes. And there's like, you can't challenge the doctor because who you are, you know, who are you to question the doctor? Doctor went through all these studies. So you kind of take it as an order, like you wouldn't even think of doing something else. But I admire you that you are a health professional dealing with this kind of, you know, you studied for years to become a nurse, and you have been, you know, in practice for 20 years, working closely with doctors. And I'm sure you respect them and respect the profession. And there is definitely place for it. But I'm sure you and I both wish that there was more of the healing preventive care that people realize before it get to point that they need to go to see doctor. And
and it is usually at that point that we become sick or we start to feel ill, that we start looking at what can I do to make myself feel better, rather than thinking what can I do to prevent any illness. You know, it is that that reactive rather than being proactive response. So if we can start looking at our lives now and going, so what can I start doing today that will help me now and in the future? And, let's be realistic. We can't just totally radically overhaul and change our lives overnight. We need to start taking baby steps. If we can start improving the food quality that we eat, or if we can start walking outside, because walking is such a great, valuable exercise and it's so underrated. So if we can, do that, or even take 5 minutes and sit down and just be with ourselves, just be in that stillness, just feel whatever it is that we feel. There, so many little baby steps that we can do right here, right now, rather than thinking, well, I've got to, throw all this food out and buy totally new. I've got to take a gym membership. And we don't need to do any of that. It's really tiny baby steps. What's the smallest thing that you can think of today that you can do to improve your health and life?
This is a great point you are making, because we are at the beginning of a new year, and that's the year of always time of big resolutions, and we tend to do exactly that. Let's throw everything out. Let's start like, I'm on a diet, I'm not eating and it's so unrealistic that people cannot stick to it. So it's from extreme to extreme. So you go for a few weeks, then you just throw it away because you can contain it, and you go right back to where you were. So nothing happens. Instead, as what you are saying, you don't have to go so radical. You can go step by step, and every little step improves something. It's a process for sure. Absolutely. Because we didn't get where we are overnight either.
No, not at all.
So, okay, tell me a little bit about, first of all, I didn't even know when we talked that you wrote several books. If you want to touch on those, what they are about, and what, if people want to purchase them, what they can learn from them. And I would also like to know how your work as a health coach looks like with clients.
Okay, so my book came about as my healing progressed and I started to feel a lot better. I thought I need to help people to understand what they can do to heal themselves. So that's how I started writing my book about, the steps that I'd taken, what I'd done, and the healing that I'd had. And then I reached out on the internet through lots of different groups and social media platforms to find other people who'd also done the same, but with lots of different things. And I wanted them to come on board and write about what they had, how they healed, so that people could understand that we can heal ourselves. I mean, when the doctor says it's chronic, it's lifelong, and it's life-threatening, it may well be in his eyes. But, when people are healing Lyme and cancer, multiple sclerosis and autoimmune disease and ALS, as you call it in the America, or motor neurone, as we call it in the UK, these are all being healed by people in my book. And they share what they did to heal. So I pulled lots of people together. They wrote their own chapter in my book to help people to heal themselves, to understand what healing's all about.
That's
and
fantastic.
Thank you. And there is a theme running through the book about, lifestyle changes and nutritional changes. Some people take supplements, some people use oils, but they're all very, very similar. Some people use like chiropractic, like I did. Some people use Reiki, energy healing, sound therapy. There's lots of different alternative things that we can use, and what they're doing is supporting our body. So I wrote my book called Heal Yourself, and then I translated it into Dutch, Spanish and French, and I have a lady translating it into Greek at the moment because not everybody speaks English. And I believe it's so important to get my book out because, as Joe Dispenza says, for us to change our limiting belief that something is impossible, we only have to see one person doing what we think is impossible. So here in my book, there's myself and 74 other people all healing all these things that doctor says are impossible to heal, and yet we're all healing them. And some of them have even had blood tests and scans to show that the levels have reduced or the lesions have totally disappeared, to prove that they have totally healed themselves.
Yeah, isn't it funny that we call this alternative while the traditional Western medicine is the right approach?
Yeah, mainstream. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is hundreds of thousands of years old, this natural medicine. I mean, look how the Chinese have been using acupuncture for years and years and years. Yeah. Tribes people eat the roots and the herbs that grow naturally. It's just about reconnecting back to the wisdom of our elders.
Yeah. And especially, like I always talk about with all the doctors and people that turn to holistic approach, how insanely crazy it is when you study to be a doctor for several years, then you are doing residency in a hospital for another several years. It takes years and years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a doctor. Yeah. They spend one day on nutrition.
I know.
Which is the core of everything. If anything can heal, it starts with the food. And it's funny because I'm looking at food, like I never cared about what I put on my body. I never cared if I have brand recognition, clothes, or expensive bags or whatever. I always cared about what I put into my body, because that to me is the most valuable thing.
Yeah, but let's not forget our skin is our biggest organ, and it absorbs everything that goes onto it. So if you wouldn't eat it, then don't put it on your skin, because your skin's absorbing it, and then you have to detoxify from it.
Correct. Yeah. So tell me a little bit how the typical work looks with you when somebody realizes that there is another option for them to heal, and that they may need some support of somebody like you. How does it look like? Where that work starts? How long it usually takes? Can you give us some insight look into your work practice?
Sure. With people locally, I can have face-to-face conversations, but with people around the world, I have video conversations. In the main, it's not often they don't want to do video conversations. And really, it's just like we're doing now. It's just a conversation. So I ask about what issues are, and then I ask probing questions, because for me, it's about the belief. What is their belief? Do they believe they can heal? Do they believe they're going to stay sick? Do they believe the food they're eating is feeding a disease or healing a disease? So I really pick down to find out what their core beliefs are, because whatever their core beliefs are, quite often they are unconscious, as in they've taken them on board from when they were children, because they were their parents or their school teachers or their parents' friends' beliefs, and they've held those as their own beliefs until they become conscious of them. And once they become conscious, like myself, in the medical model, that's what I was brought up with, that's what I believed. Once you become conscious about your belief and understand its origin, then you can start looking at it. Does it serve me now, or do I need to change it? What do I think about that belief? Do I believe it to be true now? Is it working in my life as it is now? Or is there something else that I might believe in? So it's just a rolling conversation, and I just get them to take a really good hard look at their lives. And sometimes when they're telling me things, I might ask them, where has that come from? Why do you feel that you need to do that? I have a client who always felt the need to get another qualification, then another qualification, then another qualification. And I knew it because I've been there, I've done that. And it comes from a feeling of not feeling worthy. So you've got to keep proving yourself.
Yeah.
And he realized where it had come from, and, took a really deep breath and went, I don't need to do any more courses. I am enough. And that not feeling worthy really manifests in the need to prove yourself all the time, and not wanting to be wrong. Your feelings and your ideas, they need validating all the time. So it's just a really nice conversation that I have with clients. just to get them to really look at their lives and their belief systems.
So mindset is a huge part of self-healing.
Massive, absolutely massive. But belief, because is it Henry Ford said, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're probably right.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, and the placebo is the entire proof of that.
Absolutely.
Because,
yeah.
I remember I had someone in my life that I was trying to kind of explain this, that they have to believe that the pain is gonna go away in order for them to start healing. And they were laughing at me because they were not into any personal development or mindset healing. And I remember they were laughing. So if I just sit here and believe that I don't have pain, it's gonna go away. And I'm like, well, if you sit here and believe that it's never gonna go away and you will end up in a wheelchair, that's what's gonna prove wrong, prove right. It took me most of my life to realize later in my life that how powerful our mind is and our subconscious mind, because it's a big process. Because I used to roll my eyes over this. I was like, yeah, right, just finding myself and all that bull,
Yeah, me too.
It's the core of it. Yeah. Well, you are living proof, because you did heal stuff that was believed not to be possible except with medication intervention.
Absolutely. I mean, I also healed an underactive thyroid, and I burned out my adrenal glands, and I healed those over a number of years. But I healed those, and it's like we just need to support our body to do what it does naturally. Because and I get people to think, well, when we cut ourselves or when we bruise ourselves, we don't think I need to go to the doctor or what pill should I take. We think, well, our body will heal that. In fact, we don't even give it a second thought, really.
Our body knows what to do. Yeah.
It does. And so if it can heal a bruise and a cut, why can it not heal other things?
Exactly. So what type of clients do you work with? What is your typical client, you would say?
Oh, I have a whole range of clients, from people with pain, people with depression, people with cancer, old, young, male, female. There is no one type of client. It's about, I help people who tend to be having health problems and want to find ways to resolve them. So they're already in the mindset of, I need to do something. And that's why they've reached out to me.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm really glad that it's more and more people. I'm still surrounded, and especially in Florida, where it's a lot of older people, that they have this programming in the head that unless doctor says it, there's no, they would be on days of research for something natural, but they will take pill over the counter or pill the doctor prescribed, no question asked, when they should have been asking a lot of questions. So,
but you only have to go back to those 1950s, 1960s and look at the work of Stanley Milgram and Ash to look at the obedience to authority. And obviously, a doctor is a person in authority, and the majority of people will follow that person in authority. And that's what the test showed, because they feel they need to be obedient. And I think sometimes doctors don't realize the power that they have when they're giving that diagnosis. There's not many people will say, actually, I'm not on board with that diagnosis, or I don't agree with your prognosis, what might happen in the future. This is, I'm going to have a different future. When that doctor tells the most people that of the diagnosis and the prognosis, what's going to happen to them in the future and maybe the symptom progression, the nocebo effect is the same as the placebo effect, but in the reverse, as in when you're told you're going to have these symptoms, possibly from taking this medication or from your disease process, that people will then have those symptoms because the doctor's told them, because that doctor is a person in authority. Whereas if the doctor said, well, you've got these symptoms and these tablets will maybe help, but not even give a prognosis, just leave it open-ended, because as I said previously, with a diagnosis comes a program and a set of beliefs. So if we can not give that program, and then the beliefs associated with it won't come on board. So when I'm working with clients, I'm like, so I'm not going to look at your diagnosis. Let's look at what symptoms you have. Why do you need to express those symptoms? What's your body trying to say?
Yeah, yeah. Because like you said, when you're giving that label, you identify with that label, and you find what you're looking for. It's like, either when it's anxiety, if you are given the label that you are depressed, then it is also the opposite of empowerment, because it gives you excuse to, I can't do anything about it because I am clinically whatever, you know.
Yes.
It's so, I always look at it as a disempowerment, because you are only powerful if you believe you can change that. And if you believe the label, and it may be right, you know, at the moment based on all the symptoms and everything, but then it takes the power away, because you believe, okay, now I have this sickness and there's nothing I can do, or got to be treated with medication, whatever. So it takes the power away.
It does. It's very disempowering.
Yeah, yeah. Well, your work is fabulous. I wish you were closer.
I'm here on the internet.
And Spain is lovely because it's full of sunshine, and it's the #1 healing commodity that we have for free every single day.
Yes, although it's cold at the minute.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's temporary.
It is. But even when it's cold, the sun, more often than not, the sun's out and the sky's blue, which is fabulous.
So let's say somebody is listening to this and they are considering, they're just starting realizing that there may be a different ways, that maybe not everything the doctor says flies, or it's not their only option. And what would you recommend to do as a first step for somebody like who is just starting to learn about there are other ways to self-healing, and where they should start?
I think really take a look at what you perceive as stress, because stress is our response to a situation. It's not the situation itself, it's our own response that causes us stress. So take a good hard look at what causes you stress, and then ask yourself, why do I feel stressed about this? What is it within me that is producing this stress response? And then work with that. Because stress causes inflammation, and as we've said, inflammation is the root cause of all pain and disease outside of accidents and trauma. So if we can reduce the stress that we feel, whether we feel it physically in our body, or whether we don't feel it, but our body is expressing it in things like headache or eczema or irritable bowel syndrome, but we don't, because some people don't actually feel stress, but they have the symptoms of stress because of dissociation. So take time out and do what's called a guerrilla meditation. And it's literally, it can be seconds or a couple of minutes, and just literally sit or stand or just be with yourself. Use all your senses, be right in that moment, and just breathe and just be still in that moment. And that in itself will help lower the effects of stress, but it also helps reduce your heart rate. It helps you to relax. And in doing so, it improves your health. So that's one really tiny little thing you can do, just literally seconds or a minute, anytime throughout the day, here or there. I mean, 5 minutes is better than 1 minute, 10 minutes is better than 5, but 1 minute is better than nothing. So a lot of little somethings is better than nothing of a big something, if that makes sense.
It
so
starts
just
adding up. Yeah,
absolutely. So do this, think about what the smallest thing is you can do, whether it's go for a walk, whether it's just take that moment to just be, or whether it's do some self-reflection, but love yourself as well, because there's a lot of people don't actually love themselves. So find a way to love who you are, because you are who life's made you. And that's not set in stone. We can change how we feel about ourselves and who we are, and we can forgive ourselves for what we didn't like that we might have done in the past, or for what other people have done to us, and just find a way to bring yourself that same unconditional love that you will give to somebody else in your situation.
I think this may be paradoxically the hardest thing for people to do, because especially women, they are caring about everybody else. They are the caregivers and nurses in their own world. But the last thing they think about is their own needs and really caring about their own health, because like they say on the airplane, you put the air mask on yourself first before you helping somebody else. So if you are a wreck of nerves and stressed out to, you cannot pour from the empty cup. You have to be able, if you want to be great mom to your children, you have to be okay yourself first. And that's one thing that I don't think many people realize, because they just go, this schedule, and they never allow themselves that even 1 minute to sit still and kind of just go in, because we are constantly bombarded by, we are either on a phone, or we are bombarded by music, or we are absorbing some news, and there's never quiet moment. And I realize how important it is later in my life, because I used to be that go-getter. I was like workaholic. I was feeling so powerful when I was going after that, and it's just, I paid for it with my health. I had 3 surgeries in my back, and probably the last 2 were not necessary as much if I knew what I know today. Yes. But obviously I was from that environment. The doctor is God, and whatever doctor says it goes. But luckily I got over, even though I have metal in my back, I am in good shape, and I'm working on everything else, and I'm healthy. So that's good for me. But there's a lot of people that I know that it is impossible for them to even imagine, taking, like you said, when you were in a depression, it's hard to imagine that something natural can help you. But even a little thing like exercise or yoga or something that you do with your body, that you focus on something else for you, for yourself, can be such a huge tool in the process of healing.
Absolutely. And just even focusing on your breath, just having to sit down and just follow your breath. Take some slow, deep breaths. Yeah. And just be consciously aware and feel the air move into your chest and out of your body. That will really help ground and center us as well.
I wish my best friend speak English, because I would love to send her this podcast, because she's the example of someone who made herself sick through all the stress of her life. She's always reliving all the bad things that happened to her, enforcing it into her mind, getting sick. She wouldn't hear any natural, like she believes she does, but she's really making it worse, because her eating habits are poor. Her stress level is always high. She's getting sicker and sicker. And when I was trying to kind of like, you just try to meditate for like it doesn't matter how long, it doesn't matter if thoughts come to your mind, it comes to everybody. Just let them be, just acknowledge it and just let it be. I can't do that. I can't. I'll do it when I go on vacation, or I can't do it because I fall asleep. I was like, that's okay. Just be quiet for a moment. It is really, it's killing my heart when you see that some people just refuse to help themselves.
Yeah, but not everybody is ready to accept that. And the other thing is, not everybody wants to heal, because a lot of people have built their lives around being sick and their symptoms and their support network, and they have real fears that if they're well, they feel that they would lose all of that. And the fear is really real for them. Yeah. So
because it feels their human needs. It feels the attention and love, and they feel cared for. And even if they wouldn't admit it, I'm sure that somewhere deep inside there is this like, what if I heal, I lose all this, that's gonna be completely uncomfortable. Because in the paradoxic way, that pain and that problem made me comfortable now, because that's my comfort zone. That's, I know what's coming, I know what kind of attention I'm getting. Yeah, you're right.
And all we can do is be compassionate with them, you know, because if they're not ready to heal, then who are we to come along and say that you've got to heal? You know, if that's where their comfort is, in the discomfort, then who are we to make that change for them? They have to be ready to want to do the healing themselves, and unless they're ready, nothing that we can say is going to change that.
I'm assuming that that kind of people is not reaching out to you.
No. I know a couple of people in that position, and I just give them lots of love and compassion, you know, and they know what I do, and if they change their beliefs around healing, they know where I am and how to reach me. But until then, all I can do is give them hugs and lots of love, and listen to them when they feel the need to offload, because, you know, that's what friends do.
Yeah. That makes you a good coach.
I try.
That's amazing. Well, I don't even know if you are married, have children.
I've been married was married my 30th wedding anniversary last year. I have 2 children and 2 grandchildren and a rescue dog.
Oh, wow. Well, you must have started really early.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so if I ask your husband, that I never met, of course, who are you in few words, what do you think he would say?
He would say I'm a free spirit.
I love that. I love that. That's exactly right. Well, no, I admire your work. I'm so glad we met, because this has been, it's a journey for me too, to meeting people that are into this, because I had my own journey, and it took me a while to understand the power we have within us to do things. And it's just being learning journey for me, and I'm so excited I can share it with others that are maybe on the same path or looking for solutions and looking for people that they can resonate with, because it's that there is a one more thing. When you are ready to seek for help, you need to find somebody who resonates with your values and on a personal level, because it's a deep work. And like you said, you starting with the mindset, you starting with your own beliefs, and you need to be comfortable with the person that is working with you, because you need to trust them and you need to resonate with them. So it is very deep, hard work, but it's well rewarded. It's well worth it.
It is, because once you've done that healing work, more especially the mindset work and the emotional healing work, once you've done that and dealt with your demons, then they're done, they're dealt with, they don't impact your life anymore, you know. Whereas when you don't heal that, they pop out into your life and express themselves in ways that aren't always appropriate, and quite often we don't even know that that's what's happening, or where the origins of that's come from. So once it's healed, it's totally healed. So having the confidence to go within and do that inner work pays huge rewards and dividends.
I was just gonna say, how much value do you put on that? Yeah,
massive. You can't even put a value, because it's so worthwhile in doing. You know, it in reality, it doesn't take that long. When you think about how long you've held it, you know, and tucked it away and put a lid on it, but yet it spills out into your life. And quite often you don't even realize that that's what's happening until you heal it, and then it's gone. It kind of leaves your body, and those negative emotions from it don't spill out anymore. So it's invaluable.
Yeah, it is. Well, Sarah, this has been such a pleasure. I seriously enjoyed this conversation so much, and I would like to make sure if somebody get that same feeling I have from talking with you, and they would like to reach out to you, what would be the best way to reach out to? Obviously, I'll post all your links underneath the show notes, but if you want to encourage people to reach out, where would be the best place to find you?
I think if you go to my website, www.sd Essential Health, SD for my initials, Sarah Dawkins, essentialhealth.com. My email's there, my social media links are there, my links to my book is there, and also links to my course, also called Heal Yourself, are there. Everything's on my website.
So people can work with you one-on-one, or they can take a course?
Yes.
And that's
they can both they can do the course and work with me one-on-one.
Fantastic. So you have no excuse if you are being attracted to Sarah's work and her message and her approach. You have no excuse. You have plenty different ways to work with her. You can buy a book and read the book, start there maybe with an inspiration, or you can reach out and see what the working with her may look like, or you may take a course on your own pace and realize that you still want to work with her anyway. Because not fooling ourselves, we all believe that we can do it on our own, and then we realize we do need a lot of support, because even coaches have coaches, because we are all human beings, and no matter how strong will we have, there are moments when we need support, and we need the different perspective to kind of like, it's not the same just talking through issues with a friend. You need somebody on your side who understands what you are feeding yourself, and who may give you a lot of compassion, but also call you out on things that are not good for you. So I believe that's the most important part of the coach. And that's what I'm always running into when people are considering working with coach. Why would I work a coach? I have friends, I can talk to friends. Well, first of all, they are projecting their own opinions on you. They are not trained coaches who are working with your own emotions and your needs, because we are all absolutely unique individuals. So I believe it's extremely important to find the right coach if you are ready to do something and take responsibility of your own health and take charge back. And just, we all are capable of living long, healthy, active, joyful life if we decide so, I believe. Absolutely. Would there be one last piece of wisdom that you would like to part with, that people can take home with them?
Love is always the answer. Find a way to love yourself. Understand that the people who speak badly of you, or who are not your friends for whatever reason, is because they're lacking love for themselves, and they've, something's happened within their life. And just give yourself the loving compassion that you would give to other people that were in your position. Put yourself in their shoes, looking out for you, and just come back to love. Put your hands on your heart and breathe slowly, and just be thankful that you're alive, and that you can move forwards, because there's always people there that can help you.
That's fantastic. I so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. And I know exactly at this moment who am I going to send it to first. Somebody dear in my life that really needs it right now.
Oh, thank you.
Remind herself that she needs to love herself first. Yeah. Especially when we're going through tough spots and tough situations. We all have crises, and we all have misunderstandings, and we go up and down. There's always value in reminding, I need to love myself first. I'll get through it. I'm strong, and it's not defining me. Yeah.
And give yourself a hug at times, and just tell yourself, I love you. And it'll feel really uncomfortable for some people, but just keep, stick with the program. I love you. And put your hands on your heart. I love you. You're safe. It's okay.
That's very powerful.
Very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was such a pleasure. Greeting to Spain. I hope I will visit soon and taste some more fantastic Spanish wines. Or you may come visit in Florida.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vera. It's been
such
lovely
a pleasure.
speaking to you.
Thank you. Thank you.